the Hollywood Unapologetic Podcast with Orlando Delbert, Filmmaking Essentials.
Welcome to the Hollywood Unapologetic. Under our Filmmaking Essentials banner, we're really unpacking the strategies behind, well, a true giant of entertainment.
Okay, I think I know where you're going with this.
We're looking at Game of Thrones, yeah.
Huh?
And specifically how it managed to expand so masterfully from, a much-loved book series into this absolute global phenomenon.
It's huge.
Huge. Think about when you first heard of it, maybe browsing a bookstore or perhaps seeing some early buzz online somewhere.
Oh, yeah. And it's fascinating tracing it back, isn't it? Its origins. George R.R. Martin, he initially pictured Game of Thrones as just the first part of a trilogy.
Just 3 books. Wow.
Right. But his creative process, he actually compared it to gardening, not architecture. Meaning the story just sort of organically grew. It went way beyond those initial plans.
Ah, okay.
A really prime example for you is Daenerys Targaryen. Her whole story arc over in Essos, it just blossomed.
Right, that whole continent away.
Exactly. And it added all these layers and complexities that basically stretched the entire series far beyond those first 3 books he'd planned.
So it wasn't rigidly outlined from day one.
Not at all. That kind of organic growth, right, from the source material itself, that's really something creators should think about.
Absolutely. And that whole journey, from the page, then to the screen, and then exploding into just so much more, it really does shine a massive light on the power of intellectual property, IP.
Definitely.
Now, when we talk about IP, we're essentially discussing the legal rights that protect creations of the mind, right? The USPTO, resources like Wikipedia, they give a good overview. Think of it as what safeguards original artistic works. That's through copyrights.
Okay.
So for Game of Thrones, that covers everything from the books themselves, the scripts, the visual design of the show. All that.
The core creative stuff.
Exactly. Then you've got trademarks. Those are crucial for the brand identity, the name, Game of Thrones itself, those iconic house sigils.
Instantly recognized.
Totally. Those are all trademarks that immediately tell you, where a product or an experience comes from. And there might even be design patents protecting, like, unique visual elements.
No, maybe the Iron Throne design, perhaps?
Could be. These legal protections, this IP, it basically grants the creators exclusive rights for a certain period.
That exclusive part is key.
It really is. So considering the incredibly detailed world that Martin built, it's just immense.
It really is something.
What specific aspects of its IP do you believe were the most critical in allowing for such, extensive brand expansion and all that licensing we saw everywhere?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe flip side, what are some of the potential downsides, the pitfalls, when you're managing an IP portfolio that's just that huge?
Yeah, that's a really insightful question. Look, for you as a creator thinking about this, the bedrock undoubtedly was that really robust copyright protection.
On the core elements.
Exactly. On those richly drawn characters, the intricate, surprising storylines, and of course the incredibly detailed world of Westeros itself.
Right.
These were the fundamental creative assets that could then be adapted and licensed out in so many different ways.
Okay.
Then you add the strength of the trademarks, that instant recognition you mentioned, from the Game of Thrones name and those really powerful house sigils.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
That was absolutely key in establishing consistent brand recognition across just a massive array of merchandise and media.
Makes sense.
But for anyone managing such a sprawling IP, there are definitely potential pitfalls. You asked about those too.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Well, one major one is just maintaining consistent quality across all the licensed products.
Oh, okay. Like a cheap T-shirt or something.
Exactly. If you pick up a Game of Thrones product and it feels cheap or poorly made, that can actually tarnish the perception of the entire brand over time.
Right. It dilutes the value.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
And another risk, as you might imagine, is just brand fatigue.
Too much.
Yeah. Kind of. If you license absolutely everything under the sun, you risk saturating the market to the point where the brand just doesn't feel special or desirable anymore. It loses its cachet.
That makes total sense. And, when you think about that saturation point, it's interesting to look at how Game of Thrones sort of followed in the footsteps of giants like Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, the original blockbuster merchandiser.
Right. There was this article, Skew Studio, I think, on brand licensing and brand extension. It really highlights how, after Star Wars, merchandise became this huge, almost self-sustaining thing.
Yeah, it took on a life of its own.
Exactly. It could even outlive the original movie releases.
Oh.
So for you, just think about all the Game of Thrones merchandise you've seen, or can even imagine.
Oh, everything.
I bet you could find everything from Halloween costumes to, like, stationary notebooks, echoing those early Star Wars examples.
Totally. Board games, figures, mugs.
But it went even further, didn't it? Remember the Duolingo High Valyrian course?
Ah, yes, I do. Learn High Valyrian on your phone.
That's just a fantastic example of taking a really specific element of the IP, a constructed language, and extending the brand into an entirely new area, language learning.
Super clever. And this brings up a really crucial point about who you, as a creator, are connecting with. The audience, the fans.
The fan base.
Game of Thrones, I mean, it undeniably cultivated a massive and incredibly engaged fan base.
Oh, passionate is an understatement.
Totally.
Yeah.
The Wikipedia entry even points out the remarkably high fan engagement rate on Facebook compared to other fantasy shows at the time.
Really?
Yeah, and just the sheer number of dedicated fan sites, forums, podcasts, all that stuff that just sprang up around it.
Right. Okay, so for you listening, how did this diverse and, let's face it, intensely dedicated fan base actually contribute to the success of all that Game of Thrones licensing and brand extension stuff we saw?
Good question.
And maybe what kind of challenges do you think might pop up when you're trying to manage a fan base that has such strong, often very vocal opinions on how the IP should be used?
Ooh, yeah, the vocal part.
Well, I mean, it seems pretty clear that this passionate fan base created just an inherent demand for anything and everything Game of Thrones.
For sure. They were hungry for it.
They wanted to dive deeper into that world, and merchandise, immersive experiences, even, like we said, learning a fictional language that allowed them to do just that.
It fed the beast, so to speak.
It absolutely fueled the licensing engine. However, and this is a big however, as we definitely saw, especially with how some of the later seasons were received.
The ending?
Managing a fan base with such deeply held opinions can be incredibly tricky.
It's a minefield.
When brand extensions, or in this case, even the narrative direction of the core show itself, didn't align with their expectations, well, it led to significant backlash.
It certainly did.
And that could definitely impact how those fans felt about the IP as a whole going forward. That's a real tightrope walk for any large franchise, isn't it?
Absolutely. A really astute observation. And it just underscores the complexities of trying to extend brand recognition beyond that core thing, whatever it is, the show, the movie.
Yeah.
That Skew Studio article you mentioned also brings up this fascinating concept of the omnitainment age.
Omnitainment. Okay, what's that?
Think about it. Entertainment isn't just confined to movies or TV anymore, right? It's potentially everywhere, for everyone, all the time.
Ah, okay. Like it permeates everything.
Exactly. They discuss how transmedia storytelling is kind of becoming the new normal.
Transmedia, meaning across different media.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Where a story isn't just in one place, but it unfolds. It's orchestrated across multiple media platforms.
Gotcha.
The Star Wars Lego sets are a perfect example for you listening fans can engage with that same big narrative through films, shows, video games, and even by building these physical toys.
Right. It creates so many more ways to connect.
So many more touch points, exactly.
Yeah. It's not just about waiting for the next big movie release anymore. And we definitely see Game of Thrones embracing this transmedia approach, don't we?
Absolutely.
With the various spin-off shows like House of the Dragon and the potential for even more projects down the line.
Keeps the world alive.
Right. This allows for a much richer level of world building and a deeper, more sustained engagement with the audience, just like that article points out.
It's almost what audiences expect now, isn't it?
I think so. To be able to interact with a story in multiple ways, not just passively watch it.
And, let's not overlook some of the incredibly immersive details within the original show itself that helped fuel this.
Like what?
Well, the Wikipedia entry mentions the deliberate choice to have the Westerosi characters speak British accented English, but with regional variations.
Oh, yeah. You could hear the different regions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It instantly conveyed a sense of history and different cultures within that world.
Sure.
It wasn't just generic fantasy talk.
Added authenticity.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the constructed languages,
Yeah.
Dothraki and Valyrian.
Which sounded amazing.
They did, and these weren't just superficial details. They deeply contributed to the feeling of a real, lived-in world. And like we mentioned, offered unique and surprisingly successful avenues for brand extension, like that incredibly popular Duolingo course.
It's wild that worked so well.
For you as a storyteller listening, those kinds of deep world-building details can really, really resonate with an audience and open up unexpected doors.
Absolutely. It all builds this incredibly complete and detailed universe that fans then just want to explore and engage with in, well, every way imaginable. Now, okay, let's shift our focus just a bit and talk about how Game of Thrones actually reached such a massive audience in the first place. The marketing strategies must have played a huge part in its phenomenal success.
Oh, they absolutely did.
Well,
massive part. There's another piece from the Astute Group about the marketing strategies from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And it highlights a really key lesson that's valuable for anyone in a creative field, really.
Yeah.
It's summed up as change is inevitable.
Change is inevitable. Okay.
But crucially, you need to maintain a strong consistency in your core brand and the fundamental elements of your plots.
Ah, okay. So embrace change, but keep the core solid.
Exactly. Think about Game of Thrones, the constant introduction and, let's be honest, often quite sudden elimination of characters.
Oh, yeah. No one was safe.
Right. That certainly kept the show feeling fresh and generated a huge amount of ongoing buzz and discussion. People were constantly talking about who was next.
Okay, so that constant churn in characters and storylines kept things exciting and unpredictable for you as a viewer. But how did they manage to maintain that crucial consistency underneath it all, that core brand thing?
Good question.
Well, the article explains that while characters came and went, sometimes brutally, the core conflicts, the struggle for the throne, the threat from the north, the established lore, and the overall quality of the production remained consistently high.
Right. The look and feel stayed premium.
Exactly. This same approach, the article argues, should be applied to marketing your own projects.
How so?
You develop your core brand identity, make it strong, maintain its consistency, but you promote it through a whole variety of different channels and mediums.
Okay.
Always ensuring a consistent level of quality in that promotion and adapting your specific tactics to whatever the current market demands. You stay flexible on the tactics, solid on the brand.
That's a really insightful connection. It makes a lot of sense. Now, if we circle back just for a second to this idea of the omnitainment age we were discussing.
Right. Entertainment everywhere.
How crucial do you think it was for Game of Thrones to actually move beyond just being a film and TV-centered property, to achieve that incredible level of cultural impact and brand recognition it had?
Yeah.
The Skew Studio article specifically lists that shift, moving beyond just TV film as one of the defining characteristics of this new era of entertainment. Was it essential for Thrones?
Oh, I think moving beyond those traditional media silos was absolutely essential for Game of Thrones, no question.
That crucial. Yeah. By cultivating this interconnected story world that fans could access and engage with through so many different touch points.
The merch, the language, the games.
Exactly. Merchandise they could own, languages they could actually try to learn, vibrant fan communities they could join online and offline, and then, of course, those spin-off shows that expanded the lore. Game of Thrones managed to deeply embed itself into the fabric of popular culture.
It became more than just a show.
Way more. It evolved from being just a television show you watched into this vast universe that fans felt a real sense of belonging to.
Belonging, yeah.
And could interact with on all these multiple levels. This aligns perfectly with what Skew Studio was talking about, its significant shift from purely media-driven experiences towards more merchandise-driven engagements, and the increasing importance of fostering that sense of fan-based belonging in today's entertainment landscape.
So that connection is key.
Absolutely. For you creating something now, that multi-platform potential, that sense of building a world people want to belong to, it's a key consideration right from the very start.
Wow. Okay. This has been a truly fascinating into the whole Game of Thrones phenomenon. For you, our new Hollywood generation of listeners out there.
Yeah, listen up.
Really think about this entire journey we just talked through, from that initial spark of an idea in George R.R. Martin's mind and the careful, deliberate cultivation of that intellectual property.
Building that foundation.
To the really strategic brand extensions into all sorts of areas, some quite unexpected, and those sophisticated marketing efforts that kept it right at the center of the global conversation for years.
It was masterful in many ways.
What specific aspects of this whole story do you think offer the most valuable lessons for your own creative projects as you navigate this ever-evolving entertainment landscape you're entering?
It really is this complex interplay, isn't it? Creative vision, smart business thinking, and just a deep understanding of what actually resonates with an audience.
So many moving parts.
There's so many threads there you could pull on for your own work, definitely.
Absolutely. So just to quickly bring it all together for you, try and summarize. We've taken a look at how Game of Thrones grew far, far beyond its initial book trilogy concept.
The gardener's approach.
We talked about the absolutely crucial role of its intellectual property copyright, trademark, in allowing for that massive scale of licensing and brand extension.
The legal bedrock.
We touched on their savvy adoption of transmedia storytelling techniques to really deepen audience engagement across different platforms.
Keeping people hooked in multiple ways.
And those strategic marketing efforts that somehow managed to balance constant, shocking change within the narrative with a really strong sense of core brand consistency.
Change is inevitable, but stay true to the core.
Exactly.
And now, maybe a final thought for you listeners to really chew on as you leave us.
Okay, let's hear it.
Considering the sheer complexity of managing a sprawling narrative like that, with such a massive, and let's face it, passionate global audience.
Passionate is putting it mildly sometimes.
Right. And the often very strong, sometimes very divided reactions we saw specifically to the Game of Thrones series finale. What do you think is the single biggest challenge in bringing a massively successful, interconnected entertainment property like that to a conclusion?
Wow.
A conclusion that truly satisfies a global audience with such deeply invested opinions and, frankly, massive expectations. How do you stick the landing?
Oof. That is definitely some food for thought there as you consider your own storytelling journeys. How do you end something that big?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't
It really is. Well, as members of the new Hollywood generation, remember, we are all navigating this exciting, sometimes crazy landscape together.
We're in it together.
Be safe in your creative pursuits. Be smart about your strategies. Learn from shows like Thrones, the good and maybe the tricky bits. And always, always strive to be great in what you create.
You can find more insights on navigating the entertainment industry and achieving success in Orlando Delbert's work, including his book, Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical, and of course, the Hollywood Unapologetic platform. And always remember, you are the key to your own success. You are the new Hollywood generation.
Be informed, be prepared, and most importantly, be great.
That's it. Be great. Good luck out there.
See you next time.